Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at how to add your own custom APIs to OWS 2. Why do I need a custom API? Custom APIs can be used to validate choices made during character creation when not connected to a game server. Custom APIs can also be used to add your own game-specific functionality to OWS. In this example, we're going to add a slider to the character creation process that will let us adjust between strength and agility. We're going to make sure that strength plus agility equals 20. We'll start out with 10 strength and 10 agility. If we slide the slider one direction, we'll have 11 strength and 9 agility. If we slide it the other direction, then we might have 11 agility and 9 strength. But both of them must equal 20. We're going to add custom rules on the back end to validate that strength plus agility equals 20. This will protect us from hackers trying to modify the game client to get more strength or agility than they should be allowed. First, we're going to clone the OWS API. Go to the OWS repository on GitHub. Then we're going to make sure that we're logged into GitHub, and we're going to fork the repository. Now that we have our own version of the OWS repository, we can use this to integrate future changes made from the main OWS repository. We're going to copy and paste, we're going to copy this URL that we're going to later use to paste when we clone the repository in Visual Studio. When we open Visual Studio, we're going to click on Clone a Repository. We're going to paste our repository location. We're going to point it to a path and click Clone. After it clones the repository, we need to open the OWS solution file. So we're going to double click on it. Now we'll choose the Docker Compose project and click on the Docker Compose play button. This will set up our Docker containers. It may take a few minutes to get everything set up the first time. We can verify that OWS 2 is working by opening our browser to https localhost 44303/swagger/index.html. And we should see the Open World Server Authentication API, which is the OWS public API. Now we're going to connect to our SQL database server with SSMS. We're going to set the server name to localhost, change the authentication type to SQL Server Authentication. The login is SA, lowercase, and this is our password. Your strong, open parenthesis, exclamation point, close parenthesis, password, with a capital S for strong and a capital P for password. We're going to hit connect. We're going to open up databases and open up Open World Server. Here we can see all the database tables. And under programmability, we can see the stored procedures. We're going to click on the new query button. We're going to make sure that it is set to Open World Server. Now we're going to add a customer to the database and get our API key. First, we want to check the databases MS SQL update scripts folder to see if there are any update scripts to run. Databases, MS SQL, update scripts, and it looks like there's one here. We'll double click it to open it. And what we want to do first is we want to select our OWS DB version. We're going to highlight this and press F5. And we can see that we're on 2021.02.03. This one actually says to update from a different version, but I think when I wrote the instructions, there was an issue with the database I was writing the instructions from compared to what is in the Docker container. Anyway, this is the one that we want to run because we need to add this zone server GUID. So I'm going to make sure nothing is selected, and I'm going to press F5. And now we can see here that if we run this select OWS DB version from OWS version, we can see that we are now on the latest version, which is 2022.0424. We're going to go back to this window, and we're now going to run our stored procedure to create our customer. We're going to run the add new customer stored procedure. We're going to put in a customer name, a first name, a last name, a login name, and an email. Once we get that, we're going to press F5 to execute it. It has now added all of the customer rows. We can see this by running select star from customers. And this here, this customer GUID, this is our API key. So we are going to select that and copy it, as we will need that for the next step. Now we need to set up the game client. Let's download the OWS starter project for UE4 or UE5. We're going to use UE5 in this example. We're going to go to saberdartstudios.com/docs/install and download the Open World Starter Docker UE5 starter project. After downloading the project, we're going to unzip it, and we're going to go to the OWS Instance Launcher folder. We're going to open up app settings JSON. And we are going to paste in our OWS API key and make sure that the launcher GUID is empty. While we're here, we're going to point our path to dedicated server to where we have our Unreal Engine 5, which I have at M. And we're also going to go here, and I notice there's an error. I will try to fix this, but actually it's not called UE4 Editor anymore. It is just called Unreal Editor in UE5. Probably happened there is the UE4 app settings JSON got copied into the UE5 one accidentally. We're going to update the path to our U project. M OWS test. Set our plugin. Once we've updated that, we're going to save it. And now we're going to modify our default game.ini. We're going to go to our config folder, open up default game.ini, and paste in the OWS API key in the OWS API customer key, and save. Our game client is now configured. Let's test our OWS installation and make sure it's working. We're going to open up Windows PowerShell. You could also use command window. You may have to be in admin mode, not sure. I just use PowerShell. And we're going to point it to our OWS instance launcher folder. And we're going to run .NET OWS instance launcher.dll. It's important that OWS 2 is still running it with Docker Compose in Visual Studio 2019. That has to stay running the entire time you develop with OWS. And this is what it looks like when it works. We get the yellow attempting to register OWS Instance Launcher with RabbitMQ server spin up queue, and we have some green. If you keep getting a repeating yellow row that says something about can't find a world server ID, that means we made some mistakes in our setup in our SQL database, but this looks good. So we're going to leave this running, and we're going to go open up the game client in UE5. Okay, we're going to run the Open World Starter U project. Normally what I would do here is I would right click and switch on generate Visual Studio project files and run it from Visual Studio. That's the way I run it. I think for this, just for simplicity for this test, I'm just going to double click the U project file and hopefully it works. as I was worried, you can see that it wants to build it with a different engine. So we're going to do it the way that I should have done it in the first place. This is the right way to do it. Don't use UProjects, guys. Use Visual Studio. So we're going to generate Visual Studio project files. We're now going to open this in Visual Studio 2019. Just in case, we're going to set Open World Starter as the startup project. It already was in this case, but I've seen some cases where people opened it and it wasn't. And we're going to press the play button, local Windows debugger. This is the way I always run any UE5 project. It's going to recompile the project for the proper version of Unreal Engine. Okay, after we get into the system here, we're going to go up to the vertical triple dots. We're actually going to make sure that it's in standalone mode because we're going to do the full login process. We're going to go to our maps folder, open our login map, switch to the output window, clear it, and press play. We do not have an account. You cannot use the account that you created when we set up the customer. So we're going to create a new account. And we'll do Dart test.com and our super secret password of 123456. We're going to register. We're going to enter our password, hit login, and we're going to create a new character. It's just going to be Dart. And now we're going to select this character. Okay, the OWS instance launcher got the message right here. You can see in yellow, it got the message. It loaded up the server, and we are in the map. So our installation was successful. Now we can go back to our OWS instance launcher, make sure it's focused, and press Control C. And when we do that, you're going to see that it shuts down any open servers. Make sure it's focused. Sometimes you have to press Control C twice. I don't know. It's a little weird. Anyway, didn't work when I did just Control C, but once I did it twice quickly, it closed right down. And it shut down the server. Now let's add our custom API to OWS 2. Okay, the first thing we need to do is go back to Visual Studio 2019 and stop Docker from running. We can't modify the project while it's running. Then we're going to come over here and we're going to go to our solution and we're going to right click and we're going to add a new project. And to this new project, we are going to add an ASP.NET Core web app. And we're going to go next. And we're going to name this My Game Public API. Here's where you can change My Game to be whatever you need to name it for your game. Just remember that we're going to need to change that everywhere else. We're going to use this name in a lot of places, and so if you change the My Game part in the future, the things that we change that have that in it, you're going to need to change those as well. And we actually have the projects in the SRC folder under OWS, so we want to do \src there to make sure it goes in the right place. And we're going to add that. Yeah, 5.0 is out of support. Eventually we'll go to 6. I don't think we want to enable Docker because we're going to do it manually. So our setup's a little different. Special thanks to Kevin Boone, who did all the Docker setup for us and has done some more updates recently to make it easier for us to add custom APIs. And so we're going to be doing that here, but we don't need to enable that Docker because we're going to do it manually. We'll take the rest of the defaults and we'll hit create. And you're going to see that project appear over here. Okay, we're going to be basing what we're doing in this My Game public API based on the OWS public API because they're similar. They're both APIs that are exposed to the internet, whereas all these other APIs are internal and they're not exposed to the internet. And so what we're going to do, I think if we double click, if we double click on this project container here, it'll actually open the CS project file. So we're going to do that for the OWS public API as well. And we are going to copy over just about everything. So I'm going to grab this and we're going to go here. We're going to paste it. And of course, there's going to be duplicate property group. All it had was .NET 5. You can see that there under property group. We're just going to dump this. We need a new user secret ID. I'm going to be lazy here and just go and change this 1 to a 2. Okay, that looks good. That looks good. Okay, we need to make some changes here. So this was OWS public API XML. It's going to be My Game. That's fine. These are fine. It's going to use OWS data, OWS external login providers, and OWS shared. We don't need the external login providers as a reference. I'm going to remove that. We'll leave the other two. We may not be using them currently, but there's a good chance you may use things from them. Again, we have to come here and change OWS to My Game. My Game public API XML. This is for Swagger. It's the API documentation file that's going to show up in Swagger. Coming through here, looking, that looks fine. That looks fine. That looks good. No, nothing OWS specific there. This is just all the Docker setup with the overrides. It looks good to me. So we're going to close those two files. And we are going to add a Docker file. So we have a Docker file here. So let's copy that and we'll paste it here. And now we need to edit this. So we're coming through here. That looks good. Still running the same thing. We need to change all these ones that say OWS to My Game. So I'm going to grab that. I hit Control-C to copy it. We're making sure we change all these. If we miss any of them, it's not going to work. We don't need that OWS external login providers because we said we didn't need that. OWS shared and OWS data do not change. Just these ones that say OWS public API. You can see how we're changing all these. So we're basically using the Docker file from the OWS public API as the starting point for this public API that we're setting up. I think we got them all. Okay, the step after that is to edit the new project's app settings JSON. So you can see here, app settings JSON, and then we'll open up the one here from the public API that has more to it. And in particular, I think we just need, I don't think we need this public API app config, that's custom to it. So I think we just need from this OWS API path config down to the bottom here. So we're going to come here, comma, enter a comma after that, and we've got this. Actually, we don't need this external login config. That was something different than what I thought it was. So now we've copied this over into our My Game public API app settings JSON. If you're not sure which is which, you can kind of hover over it and you can see the path there. OWS public API, My Game public API. And I don't think we need to change anything there. This is our backend. The stuff I'm showing here will be similar if you're not using Microsoft SQL, but of course everything I'm showing here is for the Microsoft SQL version of OWS 2. Okay, after we edit the app settings JSON, we need to edit the startup CS So this is where we wire everything up with our dependency injection. So again, I'm going to open them up side by side. This one is the public API, OWS public API. This one is the My Game public API. So I'm going to come here. I don't need all of these, but I want to do this quickly. Later we could come back and dump the ones I don't need. So I'm grabbing all these usings just to make sure we have them. It, of course, is going to complain about a few of them with these red lines, and we're going to dump them because our dependencies are different. And we're going to come back here, and let's see. It looks like we have the simple injector. This is our dependency injection container, so we're going to put that up here. And then we're going to need to grab this startup. I'm going to grab all the way down to here. Oh, that was actually already there. Take a look at this. Okay, it's telling it to use the app settings JSON. That's fine. And it's telling it to use the container options. Doesn't create the container here. We can actually dump that line. End up getting that somewhere else, right there. Okay, so now we're down to configure surfaces. I'm carefully copying these just in case there was something from the original that was specific to that project and we needed it. So I'm kind of, okay, we do not need the add razor pages. I can safely overwrite this, but we are going to now have to go through here and clean up. To begin with, we can dump any of the commented lines. Memory cache. Yeah, we'll keep the data protection keys. We're going to set that up the same. We'll keep those for now. We'll keep those for now. This adds the simple injector. We still want the Swagger, but that was called Open World Server Authentication API. And so now it's going to be My Game Public API. It'll change the title on Swagger. Keep looking here. The X-Customer GUID still the same. We need to change this XML file here to point to that new one that we had, My Game Public API XML. So that's setting up the Swagger documentation file that's going to get generated. We will need to set up the project to generate that. Let's keep going. This adds a connection to OWS Instance Management. We probably don't need that. I don't think we need to call OWS Instance Management API. Okay, we don't have the public API, so we're deleting that, but we do have the paths and the storage options. So these are loading in the values from that app settings JSON, the sections. So we're pulling those in. Okay, add custom health check. That's part of the health check system. I think we're good there. Okay, this is now calling initialize container, which we do not have. So let's go to the startup. We're going to skip configure for a second and scroll down to this initialize container. We're going to grab it. We're going to move that to the bottom of here. We are going to dump all the remmed out lines. It was just stuff to remind me of things. It's not used. Okay. OWS storage config still pulls from. That's fine. OWS DB backend it pulls from. That's fine. That's fine. We don't need external login providers. We don't need public API input validation. We still need the header custom GUID. That looks pretty good. So we're going to end off with the configure section. Scrolling back up. I'm going to copy this next to it and compare just to make sure I don't miss anything. Okay. We don't use that. We don't use that. We don't use that. You know what? It's fine. I'm going to dump the original. Basically end up replacing it. Again, I'm going to dump the remmed out lines. Again, we want to change this one here to match this up here, this My Game Public API. This is again setting up the Swagger. and giving it a name of the API. So that is looking good. I think we're good on the startup. So now what we need to do is we need to edit the Docker files, and they are not, let me see here. Yeah, okay. So don't make the mistake I've made where you go and edit this Docker Compose override, because that is a generated file. It's not the original. So what we need to do instead is we need to go find the original that gets used to generate that and edit that one. This is a mistake I've made in the past. I want to make sure you guys don't make this one. Okay, so we're going to go to our OWS SRC folder, and you'll see there's these Docker Compose. And the first one we're going to edit is this Docker Compose Additional. This is one that Kevin Boone set up specifically so that we could add custom APIs to it. And so this is really nice, so you don't have to modify the original. But we're going to get our template from the regular Docker Compose. And again, we're going to go down and find the OWS public API, and we're going to use it as a template. So we're going to come back up here, paste it in. And again, like we have everywhere else, we're going to change it my game. We're using lowercase here. So my game public API. OWS my game public API. My game. We are going to leave the environment here. It's pulling in the URLs. It's pulling in the connection strings. We're going to leave it as is. But we are going to make an edit to these ports. And I believe that I'm running them on 40 and 41. All they really have to be is just any we're not using. But the HTTP is going to run on 44.340, and the HTTPS is going to run 44.341. So that's good. We're saving it. And now we have to edit the last one. Again, this is for Windows. If you're doing Linux or Mac, this is going to be different. But this example is for Windows. So we're going to open this Docker Compose override Windows YML. And you can see here that there's the OWS public API. Again, we're going to copy it. This is for handling. I did two spaces there before I pasted it. This is for handling the HTTPS and the certificates. So we're going to copy that. We're going to do my game. And that's the same, that's the same, that's the same, that's the same. So we now have that all set up. So I think we're good. Probably I missed something, but let's run this and give it a try. I'm a little worried about this project being pasted in and not being reloaded. We'll see. So we're going to hit Docker Compose and see what errors we get, and then we'll fix from there. Okay, we got some errors like I expected. So when I compare the Docker Compose Additional YML file to the original, you can see here that I forgot the word services. You have to have this or it's not going to work. So that was the issue. Got to have the services. Let's give it a try again. Okay, so that worked. And now that we have it running, we're going to test our new API. So we're going to come up here and we're going to go to HTTPS, so with the S, and then localhost 44341 /swagger /index.html. If we wanted to do the HTTP version, then we need to change it to 340. We're going to do the 341 on the HTTPS, and there is our MyGame public API. In this video, we have now added a custom API to OWS 2, and it's available at these two endpoints. You can see the HTTP one is running on 44.340, and the HTTPS is running on 44.341. This video is already getting kind of long, so I'm going to stop this part at this point. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments section. And in the next video, we're going to add functionality to our custom API so that we can call it from our game client. Until next time, see ya.